Hear that growling noise? This is I believe a 06 GMC Envoy, and we're having a strange noise coming from up here. From taking a look, it feels to me, well, taking a feel, feels to me like the back of that rotor is warped, which means the back pad is probably not compressing correctly. I'm gonna show you how to take the wheel off, get the pads out, and check everything out in there. I already got it up in the air, just barely enough for the wheel to not be on the ground, and I got a jack stand. Extra little bit of safety. If something happens and that jack fails and this jack stand fails, it'll land on that tire hopefully before it lands on me. And let's see. Get a good look. It looks a little rusty in there. Brake line's a little rusty. Slide pins don't seem to be greased. The back of that rotor is definitely warped. I don't know if you can see that, but definitely not flat. This inside is actually flat. It doesn't look it, but this is smooth to the touch. Your rotor should be smooth to the touch. This has ridges. I don't know if you can see those ridges, but going all the way down it, there are tiny little, little ridges, and that means something's going on with these brakes. Okay, not that tight. Yeah, and they both unscrew pretty easy. So I just found this 13mm wrench, and I'm gonna put the box end on there, and I'll take this mallet. I got a bigger one if this one doesn't work, but I figure it will. You're just gonna, I'm gonna flip this around so it stays a little bit better. You're just gonna smack it. You see that? It turned. Let's see if it's loose. Ooh, it's still pretty tight though. Ah, she nice and loose now. Check that out. Is the caliper gonna come off without fighting me though? That's the question. These calipers like to fight. This one's not that tight, and I can probably get it off if I needed to, but I'm gonna show you how to get it off if it is pretty stuck. And get it in there. Pry it off slowly. So the first thing you want to check out once you get that caliper off and you're down to the brake pads, you're gonna want to pull the brake pads off and see how much pad they have. This that you see coming up, that's your brake pad, the actual pad, and this metal is the backing plate. This is just the backing plate. It doesn't have any pad. This was the rear where the noise was coming from. Also, where I felt those lines on the rotor, yeah, that was from this metal eating into it. This is dangerous, people. You can snap your entire rotor and potentially damage a whole lot of other stuff when it snaps. It happened to me in my Mustang. I ignored my brakes and my whole rotor in the rear left side snapped, and I lost all brakes. I had to drive home using the handbrake, but it was only hand braking on one side of the car. So it's dangerous, guys. Because as soon as you snap that rotor, there's a good chance you lose all your hydraulic fluid. That equals no foot brakes. So moving on, what are we gonna do about this? Well, we're gonna grease up these slide pins. we're gonna have to go and buy new brake pads. I'll let him know that he needs to get a new rotor, but ultimately that decision will be up to him. This is for a customer, this isn't my car, so. Let's pause for 1 second. I always recommend if your rotors are that chewed up that you're gonna wanna replace it. And I always recommend that you replace rotors and brakes in pairs. So what I would do if this was personally my car is I would get a new set of front rotors along with a new set of pads, grease everything, and new bushings. But it's a customer vehicle, so I let him know his options, and he decided that since there was still enough material left on that rotor for it to be used again, that he would reuse that same rotor, just put new pads on it. All right, you're gonna wanna take one of the old pads and line a C-clamp up with it. You're gonna wanna tighten the C-clamp down until it pushes both of these pads in. As you can see, it's starting to compress a little bit already. Since it's a dual piston, what's important is just making sure they go down evenly. So sometimes you gotta unscrew it and move from one side to the other side. But you just wanna make sure you get them both pushed all the way in. I'll go ahead and take care of that. All right. That brake caliper is completely compressed. That's as far as it'll go. That's just a little rubber boot sticking up. Nothing to be worried about. You just want to loosen the C-clamp. Set that off to the side. Set that old pad off to the side. You got plenty of room in there for your new clamps now. I mean, for your new pads. So next one. So what we're gonna do is pull these slide pins out, and these slide pins actually seem to be pretty well greased. So check the bottom one. Both of the slide pins seem to be very well greased, and like I said earlier, they were moving just fine, no sticking or binding, so I'll ignore those. We're gonna put this oh, something to note, synthetic lubricant like this doesn't mix well with organic like that, which is why I'm not gonna grease it. I would have to clean all of that old grease off to put this on. It does not mix well. But this doesn't have any grease on it. You wanna avoid getting it on the rotor as much as possible, but a little, you know, I can wipe it off. A little bit on the rotor isn't gonna kill you. Get it front and back. Top and bottoms, and like I was saying earlier, you can just wipe that grease right off. It'll be fine. So we're gonna stick these new pads on. I did check earlier, but you want to make sure that the pads are the same. If they're not the same, you need to figure out which one goes inside, which one goes outside. These 4 pads are all identical, so it's not gonna make a difference. Just get that bottom notch and line it up with this top notch. All right, both the brakes are in. The next thing you're gonna do is take this caliper. All right, so that one is made it past the slide pin. If it gets stuck on the slide pin, all you need to do is push it in. Push it in, and the caliper will sit in place. I'm actually gonna pull this caliper off though, because I forgot one of the most important places to put grease is right where this caliper is gonna sit on the back of each pad. So I'm gonna pull this caliper off, throw a little bit more brake grease just in those areas, and then I'll put it back on. And after that, all you do is take these 2 bolts and I'm gonna snug them down. I've already got them finger tight. Snug. Just throw the wheel on and snug the bolts down. I did it with the impact, but I never trust these to get them tight enough. So once it's back on the ground, you're gonna wanna take a breaker bar and torque them down by hand. Like I was saying, you're just gonna wanna grab that breaker bar, and when it's on the ground, it is on the ground. Make sure they're nice and tight, which I've already done. Take the cylinder caps if you have them, Go ahead and stick them back in. And you're gonna wanna make sure you do that on both sides, which again, I've already done. And that is a job completed. One happy customer. All right, so if you guys enjoyed that video, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I've got more repairs and custom built stuff and everything coming up on the channel, or already on the channel. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think.